There you go.
We're done.
See if that works. Maybe.
There we go.
Okay.
I love it. All right, we got it all figured out. All right. So we were just talking about joint action plans. So one of the big things I find with joint action plans. Can you guys hear? If you can hear, if you need to go thumbs up, volumes up, just let me know. I'll move the computer closer. We'll figure it out. So maybe just like yell at those people. Like yell that way.
Yell at that.
Poor Trey, man. He doesn't do this eight times a day like I do. So I see a lot of enterprise reps talk about doing joint action plans. So they talk about doing it, but then they don't do it in every deal.
Right.
I feel like that's the most consistent thing I see that people, they talk about like, they do these emails, they're one-off, but they don't do it in every deal. So is this something you incorporate in every single deal, a joint action plan?
No, what we've asked of the team is our average deal sizes are probably between 125K and 175K.
Right.
So what I ask is for my team members, anything over $75,000.
Okay.
That rigor goes a long way.
Okay.
And you talk about the desire to do them in all large deals.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When you have a lot of deals and
Right.
opportunities that you're qualifying, a lot of times I watch as my more senior AEs will back off.
Right.
The reality is, though, is as they get further and further along in the deal, they want that level of understanding of, is this person truly a champion?
Yeah.
Do I truly understand how we're measuring value and where we're headed in the deal cycle?
Yeah.
And they don't want any surprises. So the best of the best make this part of their ongoing rigor.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice to say they would do them in smaller deals,
yeah.
but certainly in their larger deals for the quarter, that's where they place the priority.
And so what did you talk about in your talk today? So you talked about joint action plans. For those of you who don't know, joint action plan, I'll give my definition, you can give yours. Joint action plan is especially in enterprise deals where you put together a mutual agreement with the client about what's next. I think one of the most important parts about a joint action plan, though, is it's not based on what you want to think is going to happen. It's really based on actions that they've confirmed, that they have said, this is the next step. Yes, I confirm it. And it's not just wishful thinking. Because I think sometimes I see reps that have, there's no joint action plan. It's like, it's my action plan. And I'm going to try to jam you in it. So that's my definition of joint action plan. So I don't know if you have a slightly different definition or how you see joint action plans, but that to me is what we're talking about here is just how do you create this process? And it sounds like you guys do them every deal over $75,000. So what is it to you? Like, what was it talk about? What's a joint action plan to you?
No, I think you put it very well. The whole idea is you're championing the account that's sponsoring the project internally, is guiding you on all the internal steps within their organization to move towards towards an agreement, but more importantly, where they see the project go live. So we talked a lot in today's session about getting away from the concept of a close plan. To your point, this is not your process. As the selling company, you aren't selling them on what their steps need to be. This is a proven best practice, 12, 15, 20 steps that your clients typically go through to make sure they get it done.
And it just has to, right? It's like, it just has to happen, like you as a seller know what needs to happen next.
Right.
I think that's what just shocks me is that salespeople, what needs to happen next, and why at the end of any call are you saying, great, what are next steps? Like you closed how many deals or you're their boss and you told them this is usually what happens, then this happens, then this happens. So I wonder, why do you think people struggle to do this more? Like, why do you think you talk the best leaders, they all talk about it, but I really feel like this is something that people struggle with consistently. So what have you seen reps struggle with? What do you think is the consistent miss?
So it's the concept of a coach versus a champion. If you're selling somebody who is carrying your project forward, and they aren't willing to dig in and do a mutual action plan with you, I mean, in my world, this is one slide and a PowerPoint. These are 12 to 20 steps that you go through.
And it's the same, right?
It is, lion's share of the time, it's the same.
It's the exact same for everyone. You don't even have to customize it. Because guess what? It's how people typically buy your product.
You're exactly right. And ironically, the second somebody that's saying, hey, I'm your champion, I'm going to drive this through, says, I don't have time to do a mutual action plan with you, they're probably not truly a champion for your cause. They probably don't believe either in the timeline for the actual project, or they don't believe it's as big of a priority as you suddenly thought it was from the beginning.
Right. Yeah. So your best reps, what do you think are the key elements that they do within the action plan? Like, what are the things for the reps that you're like, my best reps do these like 4 things or 3 things like every single time?
Sure. So about the time that we are called vendor of choice, somebody says we're ready to move forward.
Right.
And again, this is ideally your champion, but could show up
Sure.
to be a coach. They're going to literally start with the end in mind. They're going to move all the way to the implementation date in which the project
So there's
is
some
going to go
type of
live.
date, there's a timeline.
That's exactly right. So they start with the end in mind. Because remember, your champion doesn't care about when things get
Yeah,
signed.
they don't care if it's your end of quarter.
They
or
care about their
yeah.
success metrics, right?
Yeah.
Then once that's there, then they go back and they say, these are all the things we've done from the beginning. Discovery calls, scoping calls,
Right.
engagement of stakeholders. And then they'll literally say, these are all the things you should feel good about that we've already accomplished. So good news. Now they start to dig into things like information security. InfoSec is a huge one today
Right.
with today's technology.
Right.
They get into other key stakeholders. Who are the other influencing business organizations? Have they been brought into the fold? Do they understand the project and what it's going to do? And they will literally add steps within the mutual action plan or the joint action plan to engage those stakeholders.
They'll tell you too, like, hey, these people need to get involved with this step.
Correct.
Yeah.
Then they'll ask questions about the decision-making process, and those all become steps. We hear what we want to hear.
Yeah.
The champion will say, I control the budget, or I handle the approval process. The reality is, if you can clearly define that final decision-making process, you're going to get insights well before that last few weeks moving towards an agreement.
Because you're going to know, because
Exactly.
you know when procurement needs to get involved. I can't tell you how many enterprise deals all go long. And I got to tell you, by using action plans, man, I've closed $4 million deals in 10 months.
Right.
Because I was able to quickly move through. Look, so the first step is we're going to pilot this with X number of users or whatever. And here are the KPIs for success. If we're able to do that, then this is what happens next. And if we're able to do that, then we deploy company-wide. And I think we've got this fallacy that enterprise deals always have to be long. They always have to be drawn out. But I feel like having a tight action plan just shrinks those. And I don't know if you have any examples or maybe some of your reps that have used it and like the impact it's had. For me, it's about shortening the deal. It's about knowing if you're in the deal, to your point. That's to me the big value.
Well, it's funny. We'll develop relationships with the champion. And then all of a sudden, they decide they're moving forward with us. All the hard work has been done. Theoretically, there should be a step-by-step process to get over the line.
Yeah.
And like you said, Jake, when we look back, we kind of get to a process where these same things are happening again and again. It should be repeatable. So having a conversation saying, I'm very honored you selected us, but let's make sure that I can deliver on all the promises I made to you. Let's look at this plan and establish a few steps so that I make sure nothing falls through there.
And this is post-implementation then? Or is this?
In my mind, that's the very beginning when you're introducing the mutual action plan, saying, I'm honored you selected us, but let me make sure we know. Start the journey towards an agreement. Or
so then you're also testing, is this a nice to have, or like if we actually do this, are we going to move forward?
Right.
I'd love to hear, from everyone, feel free to drop your questions. We've got about 75 people right now. What are your questions about, do you use mutual action plans? What works? What doesn't work? Any questions you have about big enterprise deals, because I think one of the big pieces, that, like let's say you sell a certain product, IT needs to be involved, maybe operations, or say if it's something like in a factory or something. But I feel like, what do you think holds reps back from getting this? Like, what is it? Do you guys have templates for it? Do you think reps just don't ask the right questions to be able to put it together? What do you see in other reps that stops them from doing this more consistently? Like, what stops reps from actually, even though we all know that it should be working most of the time, what actually stops them?
I think, honestly, it's an important step to slow down before you speed up towards the end of the deal. And I think all too often, our top AEs get going very fast, and they have a lot of deals in the air, and they start seeing everything that they can.
So it's volume. They get a lot of deals.
Correct.
Okay.
I see often, though, the best reps realize once they have been selected, it really is just important to cement every step along the way forward, closing out that right deal.
Yeah.
And
Do you think they're just scared, though? Do you think that's why they don't do it? You think they're just like, well, I don't want to put this plan out there because what if Susan says no?
Yeah.
What if she says, like, I don't agree to the next step? Like,
maybe we do have happy years. We've all been there.
I know,
we
man.
all get excited when somebody says,
That's
yes,
right.
I've selected you. But I think the people that have been doing it long enough,
Right.
that have skinned their knees, that have watched as a $500,000 deal suddenly becomes a $250,000 deal because
That's right.
they didn't realize it's procurement.
And then at the very end, procurement came in at the hammer.
Right.
Yeah, every time, man.
Right.
Like, don't get it. Like, people, procurement's going to have to be involved. It happens every single time.
Right.
And now you're surprised, like, oh, Jake, they got to get it done by procurement. Like, of course they have to get it through procurement. It's a $450,000 deal, and they've never purchased what you are before.
Right.
Like, how do you not think that that's going to happen? And that's, what I do is, we call it kind of like one of the steps of the trial close, which is basically after you submit the initial proposal, like you say, hey, look, we've had 2 or 3 meetings. Here's what I think it looks like. And you get this is great. Let's start to talk. That's when you start parallel pathing MSA. That's when you say, great. Hey, so usually as a part of this, procurement's probably going to be involved. So what I'd like to do is send you over our MSA, Master Service Agreement. Get the process started. And that tells you where you're at in the deal too. Mm-hmm. It tells you, are they interested in it? Do they want to do it? And to me, like, that's a really big, important piece,
A counterpart at Accruent has been a great coach as well. He has a sequence of events he goes to with his teams. And to your point, he will say, hey, guys, have you got the mutual NDA in place? Because that should be done very early in the process. It's a way to test the organization to see how serious they are. So he takes a step further as a sales leader and coaching them on the steps that you were talking about.
I love it.
What I have seen, though, from our AEs is sometimes they get so focused on what's next and trying to rake in more deals that they forget they have been there before.
Yeah.
They've had a deal push out a quarter.
That's right.
Too. So hold yourself accountable. And then that mutual action plan becomes a way of not only holding yourself, but also your client accountable.
Right, exactly.
The guys who do it best, Jake, they literally have 20, 25 meetings once a week, once they have the mutual action plan in place, and their champion can coach them on how things are progressing.
And are they doing it? Is your team managing this on a Excel sheet? Are they managing on a PowerPoint? What does your team use?
So I am not too restricted. If they have an Excel spreadsheet that works for them, that's fine. My best practice that I coach them on is a slide in a PowerPoint that once they have that mutual action plan, they can combine it with an executive summary that articulates the value, that articulates the solution, because we both know that as you get closer and closer to the approval process, your champion needs something to distribute.
That's right.
To the CFO, to procurement that says, this is what we're doing and why. And it is so helpful when the CFO sees 14 things of the 16 things that need to be done have already been completed.
That's right. And then and in your mutual action plan, I think this is important. Do you include implementation, post-implementation steps?
Yes, you nailed it.
Yeah.
That's kind of starting with the end in mind. In fact, after I made my presentation today, I had a gentleman reach out that I had connected, I guess, about a year ago at the last Sales Success Summit. I said, Trey, you're talking about an implementation 90 days out. Why don't you go through the whole first year and then back in? Because that back end is what they care about most.
Right.
So
they care about the results, right?
Yes.
And the results aren't just at the end of implementation. The results happen at the next step. Yeah.
And these should be repeatable. I mean, once you've sold these things a few times, you build your own template. And you can share it internally. One of the ways that I have built internal champions is I ran our top list of 16 and past our chief security officer.
Okay.
He said, hey, Trey, you forgot about these 3 steps. Well,
he told you about the steps.
I'm listening to the steps. And then I think the other one that you started to allude to is somewhere in this process, there's got to be executive alignment.
Has to.
As you're going to do bigger deals, having a step where your executives get on a call together, confirm the value, confirm the timeline, confirm the close dates, it changes the game. Well, I watch as my AEs want to do it all themselves. They're busy. They know it's time consuming.
It's wild, man.
But the executive alignment holds the value, holds the deals larger. As part of the process.
I do 100%. Yeah, I mean, I think that ego why you don't want to get your CEO involved? Or I just have always been lazy.
Yes.
I'm just lazy. I'm like, if someone else wants to sell for me, if I can bring in an executive to do part of my job, more merrier. But I think it's ego, whatever,
I think it's figuring out how to manage those folks as part of the process.
They don't even know.
Knowing how to get on their calendar. Right? I heard one today. How great is it when you have the admin for your CEO call the admin for somebody else's CEO and arrange time for those 2 executives to talk together? Holds the deal a lot bigger. The CEO of the buying company feels like, wow, this is very important. This is not a a $100,000 deal. This is a $2 million
That's
project,
right.
and I'm ready to put my stamp.
Yeah, because the CEO has a bigger purview than you're as a unit leader or your team leader, right? The CEO is like, oh wait, we're trying to solve this. Actually, maybe I could solve this. And that's a C2C conversation sometimes.
We have to challenge ourselves.
Yeah.
As individual AEs, we have to challenge ourselves to think bigger and understand who's going to see the value and what we'd like to charge versus who's not going to care, procurement, who's going to try to drive down pricing because that's what they're paid to do.
That's right.
So we just need to be smarter.
Do you have something you could share with the audience? What you could share? We've got like 7. Do you have like a template or something that's more vanilla that you can share? People
Absolutely.
All right, hey, Kara, will you tag Trey in here?
Yes.
So we will tag Trey in here. If you I'm creating work for him now. So what maybe I'll have him do is I'll have him send it and we can just make a link for it or something like a Google Doc or something. But you can DM him or DM me to get the mutual action plan. Dude, I'm a huge fan of it. I think I have seen the power of it. And I feel like if this is something that any leader or even as a rep, you can institutionalize with your team and you can really start to get in that habit of doing it, it can have a dramatic impact on deals, man.
Couldn't agree.
Dude,
I tell you, I got to give you credit. As I'm watching, I had no idea about the numerous communities that are coming together to leverage best practices. These resources weren't there.
100%, man. I mean, I think that's it too. And I think in sales, it's kind of counterintuitive to a lot of people that you would just give value. You would not have all these things. Like, again, like if you share this with me, I'm just going to put it on a link. I'm not going to gate it with stuff. And I think in sales, we're so used to this, like, we've got to gate it. You've got to get the email address.
Hide it. You got to get something out of it.
I got to get my email address, man. Well, dude, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much, Trey. Good to meet you. Apologies about the technical difficulties. So we're going to keep it rolling. So Trey, just talk to us about. I appreciate it, my man. Thank you again. All right. So you just heard it there. Mutual action plans. I love that. I love it because I'm telling you guys, your deals are all the exact same. They all behave the exact same way. And I think too many times we like to see all these deals as like special flowers, and we try to not see deals as like we see them all differently when in reality they're all similar. So, all right, Chris dropped a question. Finally, right? Chris, your thoughts on sales teams getting comfortable with advertising, traffic, and referrals and getting less productive with retention and prospecting? This is a good one. So let me ask you this. Hey, guys, with the background noise, can someone comment how bad the background noise is right now? I can't tell. We're like in a kind of a common area. So we're going to have our next person joining. Are they here? We got, who we got next? We got David Weiss from ADP talking about building the business case and closing the gaps in the process. Do you want to go see if that's him over there? Kara, do you want to go see if that's him over there? I think that might be him. Yeah, I think so. Maybe. It might be him. No? All right, we'll wait for David, but we won't wait for David. I'm just going to keep rolling. If you guys can hear it, if for some reason the background's too loud, just let me know. We'll find a little locale here. So can hear you fine over the noise. Pretty noisy, hard to hear the guest. So hey, can we let's do this. We're going to do a location shift. Can we go in there? Let's go in there. So let's grab this. We're going to do a location shift. Kevin, Kevin, I'm going to butcher your name. I apologize in advance. Potrezba. We hear you. We're going to try a location.
All
right, come on. Grab the computer. I don't even think it's on that. It's on here. All right, here you go. Live. Here's where we are. We're live at the Alamo Draft House. Coming to you super live. All right. Got the team over here trying to close some deals, making it happen. There we go. First ever cameo on LinkedIn Live, Jenny.
Hey,
there it is.
I did it.
All right. So this should be a lot better for everyone. I'm going to try to create some room here. All right. Can we maybe get something? All right. The lighting's not bad.
Sorry, that's my bad.
That's fine. So lighting's not too bad. All right, so hopefully this is better. This should help us with some of the volume issues that we had. So, all right, John Spencer. Hopefully this is a little bit better. Can we see if we can get something to prop this like up on to get it a little bit higher? Chris Rangel, way better. Chris, you ask. Well, I asked, and then you told me it was loud. So you asked, I asked, and I answered. So I don't know how that quite works. So, okay, so talking about enterprise deals, Chris had the question, your thoughts on sales teams getting comfortable with advertising traffic and referrals, getting less productive with retention and prospecting. So, Chris, I'm going to try to extrapolate what I think you're asking for here. And maybe you can clarify too, referrals getting less productive with retention and prospecting. So I think what you're asking here as a part of this is, are you ever worried about people doing a mutual, like spending more time on this type of activity as opposed to actually like spending time going out and finding net new deals? And I think, look, the answer is maybe, right? And so what I mean by that is the key is a balance. I really like what Trey said. He's got a policy on his team where what they end up doing is it's all deals over $75,000. So they're really kind of focused on, hey, we feel like this has an opportunity to be over $75,000. And that's where they're focused. So I think for all of you who are thinking about this concept of a mutual action plan, you don't have to do it for every deal. But again, maybe like over 75,000 can be a really good spot for you. As opposed to trying to do it for every deal. Now, look, hey, if you're a big enterprise rep and you only have 10 accounts, then look, I think you can probably afford to do this for all your deals. So my advice would be make it deal appropriate. So, all right, so again, everyone, we're talking for the next hour, we're talking big enterprise deals here. So any questions you have for me, I was telling Trey before, like, look, I've closed multiple multi-million-dollar deals with big companies, closed, tens and tens of six-figure plus deals. And I'll tell you some of my like best advice and, kind of best, I guess, like tips or tricks for enterprise deals, other than the mutual action plan, which I think is also very, 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 very important. For me, I think one of the things that I historically have been strong at has been understanding this concept. And if you follow my content, you've probably heard me talk about this before, but if you're selling something that's seat-based, if you're selling something that is license-based or volume-based, nobody ever goes in an enterprise deal from 0 to 100. They go from 0 to like, okay, to, all right, maybe there's something here, to 100. And so what I've been very successful in my career with enterprise deals is really focusing on being very, very, very realistic about what the sales process is. And I lay that out in the very beginning. And so it could be on the first call, it could be on the second call. I'm having that conversation. And instead of saying, well, great, you have 2,000 employees, so we could have, I know that that's never going to happen. If we've never partnered before, you're never going to go from 0 to 2,000, right? Maybe once in a lifetime. And you'll know when it's going to happen. So you won't need to really understand that. So for me, some of the big things is I call it a proof of concept, proof of scale, and then the kind of whole company rollout. So what I do in a very first meeting with a decision maker is I'm going to say, look, so John, let's talk about how this typically works with our clients. So first, what we'll do is you've got about 2,000 users. We talked before, and ideally, I want to try to understand what the team's going to be so I can suggest what the team is. So I'd say, great, John. So we've got about 2,000 people. Typically, what we'll do is we'll pick, it sounds like this team in the Southeast is typically your testing group. So we'll pick about 100 to 150 people in that group. Over the course of the next 60 days or whatever period you need to prove, we're going to look to prove this, and this. If we're able to prove that, then we'll expand to the entire Southeast region. During that expansion, we'll look for these key KPIs, which are aligned to business challenges. And then if we're able to hit that over the course of 6 months, then we'll move to all 2,000. Does that sound like a fair plan? And so this concept, my friends, of proof of concept, proof of scale, big deal, this is how every enterprise company buys. And so you almost look, ignorant if you don't understand that. So whenever you come in and you start pitching these big enterprise deals out of the gate, you're like, well, you have 2,000. Here's the pricing for 2,000. It just shows that you don't really understand what goes into buying like big ticket item software. So for me, I really feel that if you don't do a very, very, very good job of like nailing that process, of really nailing that process from like the very beginning, it's going to change your game here, right? So I think that is my best advice for enterprise. Proof of concept, proof of scale, big deal. All right, so enterprise deals questions. What are some of the things that you're constantly running into? Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I'm going to grab a glass of water.
So I don't know where David is, but Scott Barker is here.
Can you give me water?
Do you want to talk to Scott?
Yeah, I'll talk to Scott.
What's up?
What's up, dude? Long time no see.
Good to see you. Have we met in the flesh? It feels like it.
I think so. Hey, I'm on the line.
Jump in? Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so I found somebody wandering the halls.
That's all I kind of do.
His name is Scott Barker. So let me ask you. So Scott, do you work for Sales Hacker or Outreach?
Both.
Explain this to me.
All right.
Wait, is this like cloak and dagger shit? Like,
No.
we shouldn't jump into this. I don't know what the
We're
rules
good.
are.
I don't actually, divulge it too much. But here's what
Nobody asked,
Here's
right?
what I think with that. So I still run revenue and partnerships at Sales Hacker. That's still
Okay.
a big part of what I do.
Okay.
But by the nature of kind of who I am, and
Yes.
the more I started, learning about what I was just doing and all this stuff, I just couldn't help but like put my hands in things, basically what happened. And so over time, I started getting more involved in marketing activities, and basically, eventually they're like, we're not sure what to do with this guy, but I think he's valuable, so let's give him an evangelist title, and away he goes. So now it's a mixture of sales in the form of sponsorships, so
Okay.
for other big conferences and,
Sure.
that sort of thing. Definitely a lot of marketing. I run their sales engagement podcast, and then lots of like PR and just strategy for their BDRs and things like that. So those are
So you're like all over the place. You
A
do a
little
lot of, but like in a very focused, like you've got like your niche, and
Yeah.
seems like you're loving it.
I love it.
All right.
I love
all right.
it.
So what we're doing, so there's been a lot of people who are talking about closing big deals.
Yeah.
Right. And so, for you,
Mhm.
did you talk? Yeah, you talked.
I did.
What was you talking about?
My talk was the tricks that salespeople need to steal from marketers.
Okay. So salespeople stealing tricks from marketers.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was always, when I was a frontline, like really early in my career, I just started naturally gravitating toward marketing books. Like found Seth Godin, I found Purple Cow,
Yeah.
and it's like mid 2000s. So I just started to like absorb all his. There's this guy John Spolstra in sports. He talks about how to sell ice to Eskimos, right? Ice to Eskimos. And I feel like if you haven't, because marketing is about how to, like how people behave and how influence happens. And so I don't know if you got into this, but how do you feel if you're in sales? What are the most important tips, right? So if I'm in sales, I'm trying to think about marketing. I don't even know what marketing does. I think they do arts and crafts.
Yeah.
I think most like my marketing teams over there, like doing happy hours and events and shit. And then then they produce this collateral and I just take it and I throw it in the trash. I'm sure you don't say that about your marketing team, of course.
Yeah.
But so what do you think? What do you think's most critical? Like, what are some of the tips?
Yeah. So when I look at marketing, and there's probably marketers listening to this that they may disagree, but typically it's going to go into 3 buckets, right? I think you got brand, you have demand gen, and then you have like thought leadership or content, right? Those are kind of the bubbles that marketing will go through, and they do it on this macro level where they get all of this data from basically the entire market.
Yeah.
And what I was proposing is we need to take what marketing does on a macro level and apply it to our micro kind of pipelines and activities that we're doing. So the 3 examples I gave, and there's a ton. And how this came about for me was I sold into marketing for so long,
Right.
5 years, that I had to understand them, and to be a true consultant, I needed to be able to do their job.
Yeah,
right?
you need to know like what actually moved them,
Yeah.
what were they motivated by, what do marketers actually do?
Yeah.
A lot of salespeople say that.
Yeah, so I kind of became this marketer. I started applying it to my own sales process. I still hold a multi-million-dollar number. And the 3 things that I said today were, number 1, salespeople have this terrible habit of overcomplicating things.
Okay. Tell me
Because
more.
they have so much information at their disposal that they want to just share it all with the prospect. So we did a quick exercise where everyone wrote down their value prop, and typically it's like 3 to 4 sentences.
For their company or for them?
For their company. For their company.
So write down your value prop
Yeah.
as a company.
Yeah.
How many sentences? What's max?
I like to do 1 and maybe 2 if it's a super
2
complex.
sentences.
Yeah.
Max. What's my value prop? Okay, love it.
Use clear, concise, relevant messaging. That's number 1. Marketing figured that out a long time ago. Salespeople, we overcomplicate things.
Right. We would like keep listening.
Yeah.
Right, keep listening. Oh, but it can do this.
Yes.
It can do that.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I got it.
And the last point I want to say on that one is when you just blurt out all this information, then you're doing yourself a disservice because you don't get the learning from them leaning in. So if you're like, hey, we do X, Y, and Z, then you don't know what they care about. Versus when you keep it simple and use language that you explain to an 8-year-old, they then overcomplicate it and be like, oh, do you mean Z does this? And then you automatically know, okay, I should hone in on Z. Right. So they're giving you more information. So that was number 1. Number 2, you're all about this. Marketing spends a lot of time on brand, right? And salespeople, we're in the same camp on this. You need to take your brand very, very seriously, and start creating content. And I think that's just unbelievably important. And you said something which I finally said in the same week. Personal brand, LinkedIn, it's just the new age Rolodex, right? That's all it is.
Yeah.
So
did you borrow that today?
What's that?
Did you borrow
I did, but yeah, it's so true.
I don't know if I trademarked that, but I'll.
Yeah, we'll check the timeline because I said it in a podcast like literally a day before you said it, and I was like,
come on.
Anyway, I'll give it to you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, and then number 3 is in the same vein, but it's showing up in communities. So it's so interesting to me that there are communities and groups out there for every single buyer persona known to mankind. People say, oh,
communities.
Not mine.
I love that, dude. I love that.
Everyone says, like, oh, not mine. I found groups of dentists. I found groups of lawyers. Like whoever your buyer persona is, there's a group out there that exchanges ideas on a daily basis. And it's this amazing, insight. You just get to listen to them, whether they're on LinkedIn, their own blog, their own forum, whatever it is. Go find them. A few rules. Number 1, don't pitch a product. Number 2, don't pitch a product. Number 3, don't pitch your product. Show up, use it as a listening tool, and then post thoughtful content in there until, again, they're ready to lean into you.
Right. So like they post a bunch about, thank you so much. Thank you, Kara. Kara just got me a water. So I'm talking for like 2 hours now.
Has this been live the whole time?
No, it's been live for like an hour. We had this huge audio. We get these fancy podcast mics and shit, and then guess what? Then it just starts like having glitches and stuff. Right. But it worked really well before, and then all of a sudden I talked to John Barrows. He's not here. I talked to him. Yeah. We did a live session. All right, so communities. Yeah. I love that one, man, because again, and maybe actually we can maybe make that a little more practical too. What do you? You're a rep, you're busy, you're like, okay, Scott, I hear you. I sell into marketers. Yeah. There's a million of those, right? Like, what are some practical things that someone could think about for a community? Like, what are some ways that you see reps or people integrating this kind of community engagement in a way that's practical? Yeah. So practical, as the exercise I usually do is just type in, marketing or demand gen or event marketing, whoever you sell into, and then community or group in LinkedIn. There usually will be a group out there with a couple thousand members. And I would just make it tactical, just post once a week. Yeah. That's not your company branded blog. It's something else. Post once a week.
In a
LinkedIn group. Or like Quora, Reddit, something. Yeah. Depending on where your people are. Wherever they are. Yeah. Once a week. And it's thoughtful content that is not branded for your organization, and just try and spur a conversation. So you can almost get this user-generated content going. It's really funny when you are the catalyst for this conversation. People think you're the smart one who did it all. John Barrows literally said the exact same thing earlier. He's like, if you share someone else's content, and of course you give them credit, you're not doing anything shitty. You give them credit, you share it, you get the accolades. Yeah. Yeah. Now maybe they go follow you or go follow John or somebody, but you get the credit. You can just be a curator. Totally. And I think a lot of people, they downplay that idea that they feel like everything has to be original. Now, obviously, I think in my opinion, is original
trumps all,
It
but
trumps.
you can get there eventually.
Yeah.
You don't have to jump to that.
All right, so Laura's got a question. What's up, Laura? Laura's great.
I know, Laura's awesome.
Laura, yeah, she hops in on a lot of the LinkedIn lives. Laura, I love it. Thank you.
Laura.
So, any research on most impactful content help to close big deals? So, case studies, white papers, ebooks, one-page brochures. So, asking kind of this classic question of what is the money content? Like, what's like the magic content? I'll give my take on a little bit of this. That I think a lot of this is just being right place, right time. That the content is slightly less important than just being prevalent. So, I'll tell you an example of something that we do now that's made a big impact. I post consistent content every day, right? Every day I'm posting a piece of content. Your company is probably posting a piece of content every day or every other day too. Most companies now are sharing on social media.
Yeah.
When you get into a deal, connect with every single person in that work. Like that's in the buying circle. Or for us, like what we'll do is we kind of do this high-low play where I'll connect with all the sales reps and then my team, or then I'll connect with like the other execs in the team. Because what happens for me is like, then they're just getting content. Once I call it the web, Scott. Yeah. Once you get into Jake web, I've got you in my web and you can't get out. Yeah. So to me, I feel like it's a diversity of content on a consistent basis to people that are involved. I haven't seen a direct correlation. I really feel like a lot of the content you're actually mentioning, Laura, like white papers in particular, ebooks are really good middle funnel validation that your company is super legit. I don't know how you feel about this, man. I really feel like case studies and testimonials, people like don't believe them all. I feel like we're a big believer in G2 Crowd. Yeah. We signed the largest contract in G2 Crowd history, longest contract in G2, probably not the largest. 3 years and 1 month.
Yeah.
I was like, Clay, I have to be the longest contract. I believe in this. But what we keep finding, there's some validation and some search. Like Ryan, their head of marketing, does a killer job with SEO. Yeah. But we're finding testimonies and case studies not moving the needles that people, because everyone's got so many of them. So I think for us, we've seen a lot of the content that you mentioned, Laura, is more middle funnel. But for us, what we're actually just trying to do is create consistent touch points with buyers and their circle. And social has been a way for us to do it. So I'd love to know if out of these, because you do a lot of webinars, you guys do a lot of this stuff. So are there things that you've seen work or not work better? Like, or even content that maybe was working and not working now? Yeah. Like in terms of actually driving like engagement or getting deals done for big deals?
Yeah, so this is a great question. We actually did a survey. This was now, it would be almost a year old, but still quite relevant. And we asked people what they trusted, what their most trusted resources were. And we actually broke it up by age gap. And I'm glad that we did because we got some really interesting findings. And the number one trusted for people over 40 was ebooks and white papers.
Okay.
Under 40, those two were the last. And the first two were review sites, G2 Crowd, and second was thought leaders. That's where they're making their decisions, right? So that was pretty interesting. That's the next generation of your decision makers, if they're not already decision makers. And that was a super interesting finding. And then just another thing to share on a piece of content that I think everyone should use, and we had a great presentation today on it, is a mutual action plan.
I just talked to Trey right before this, man.
Trey, it was amazing. And we implemented that at Media Valet when I was there, a SaaS company I was working for back in the day. And we saw immediate impact, and it's a collaborative, living, breathing document. I think that's going to do so much more than just, a case study. And then to your point about just like getting people in your web, I do that all the time. And I'll hit them up on like 3 emails, they won't get back to me. And then I'll like almost tailor a piece of content that's like kind of towards them with some of their pains and challenges. They'll like it. And then lo and behold, they'll hit me back.
Of course they do. Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. So Laura, the advice you're hearing from Scott is, from what the data that they saw, it sounds like people over the age of 40, they like those kind of white papers, case studies, that kind of the meatier stuff, and people under are more peer reviews, social media. I mean, that makes sense. I think that intuitively, that makes a ton of sense. So what else? I think the question, Laura, like, what are some other ways you see marketing and sales working together on big deals? Like, what are some ways that you see like that actually working.
Mhm.
You know, like maybe even how you guys do it, or how some of your clients do it in a good way.
Yeah. So here's what I see is marketing is so obsessed with like top of the funnel and demand gen, like so obsessed with it. But there's a world where that's just the wrong KPI, right? We had this very specific situation one time where we had all these juicy, big, late stage deals, and marketing, for whatever reason, I was rolling up to marketing at the time. We were still just like feeding this engine.
Yeah.
More leads, more logos. And then we kind of like stepped back and we're like, hey, we have a revenue goal. Like maybe our efforts, maybe we don't do the webinars this month. Maybe we don't create that ebook, right? Why don't we spend it on the bottom of the funnel and create actual content that's specific to each deal? And that's going to have a much more material impact.
Yeah, and it worked.
It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's interesting, man. We're obsessed with net new, dude. It's the same thing with current clients. Like, God forbid marketing went in and helped the relationship management team or customer success team, you know, because that's where you see a lot of big enterprise deals, right? Is that in marketing, they work kind of one-on-one to put together these pursuit plans around these deals. Like we interviewed a candidate, and he worked at one of the top 4 consulting firms. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And they had 2 accounts. They had one marketer dedicated to 2 accounts.
Yeah.
Because that's the deal sizes we're talking
it's
about
worth
here.
It, right?
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
So that guy's working with the sales team to orchestrate a executive brief, a dinner here, a new ebook tailored to this financial institution. And I feel like that's the future, where I think more and more companies are going to start to think of marketing not just top of the funnel, because top of the funnel can only do so much. And candidly, I think the things that marketing started to get good at, like blogs and ebooks, he's kind of like creating these mechanical things and then rigging them for SEO.
Yeah.
That's not what, again, this younger generation is responding to. They're responding to, like, again, review sites, social media. So I feel like people have just marketing is going through a change. I actually think what marketing is doing is actually going back to caring more about brand stuff too. Yeah. Marketing is kind of going back. Like, we got all these new marketing automation toys, and we're like, yes, marketing automation toys, and we went numbers, MQLs. And now we're kind of going back to like, maybe it's like a mix. Yeah. Maybe it's the quantitative and qualitative. So I don't know how you've seen that play out, or have you guys adjusted any of your strategies at all to be more mindful of that versus like ask, which I feel like a lot of marketing has been.
Yeah. It's definitely like, you're on this, you got to give value. You got to build this bank of value before you ever try and withdraw from the value bank, right? And more people are understanding that now. And I think that's why part of the reason I gave the talk I did is I think a lot of those top of the funnel can actually come from your reps now, because people want the authentic human being on the other side. So your reps can be the ones filling the funnel, and they might need help at later stages with these big deals. And that's kind of the future I hope we're heading towards. Because
I think you're going to have to, dude. Yeah. I think just thinking that you're going to be able to get through with emails and calls and a terrible InMail is going to be really tough. I mean, and especially, think about in the US, we've never adopted anything like GDPR, or in Canada, you guys have Castle.
Yeah. It's all coming.
There will be something like that for the US, and that's why I think, again, people direct mail's working. Well, it's like a physical one-to-one touch, Cold call. We talk to more and more companies with cold calls. They're like, cold calls are working because people aren't making that kind of authentic. And I think that's what it is. Like, on social, you've got a chance, or wherever these communities are. If your community's not on LinkedIn, go to Reddit or Quora or wherever the people are. I don't give a shit.
Or here's a crazy idea, which I've seen work in so many different personas. Go create your own, even if you're a sales rep. Like, go create your own community, and it's actually not that vast of an undertaking. It's so easy to spin up a website and a blog today and have it just have user-generated content. Find the thought leaders and whoever persona you sell into, interview them, throw it up on a blog, and you just created yourself an inbound lead engine that you're going to feed off for years.
Dude, Scott, like, this is what I tell people all the time. Like, you are a salesperson. You talk to industry influencers every single day. Yeah. You're wanting to know what to post on LinkedIn. Post a recap of your conversation. Say, hey, Scott, we had a really nice conversation. There was this little nugget you said in particular. I'd love to share that with my audience.
Yeah.
Scott's going to be flattered. He's a director of
Ego
operations at Honeywell.
Yeah.
He's going to feel flattered that you did that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, Eric, we got one question. I'm going to go. Let me go see if there's another dude that's supposed to talk to.
Yeah, of course.
I want to be rude on that.
All right, let's see. How can marketing help nurture accounts and contacts that you've engaged with too early in the buying cycle? Sales has already moved on to the next deal. Yeah, so I'll tackle this one while Jake's out there. So this one, you just have to be very much, in sync with your marketing team and flip them over to have some sort of, deal status where you want them on a marketing nurture. There's a ton of different marketing automation tools that you can use to put them on, some sort of drip campaign, but we're seeing negative returns on that. So, keep them up to date with webinars, podcasts, things that you're doing. That would be my suggestion, but would love to hear Jake's take on this.
What was the question? Jake's take. We just made something up. And can we just say, Scott Barker, best hair in sales. I mean, look at this guy's hair. I mean,
Thank you.
Your hair is fucking great.
I'll take
I
it.
really love your hair. Okay, what was the question?
How can marketing help nurture accounts and contacts that we've engaged with too early in this buying process?
Well, I mean, look, ideally, guess what? That was the goal of marketing automation,
Yeah.
right? That was the whole reason we even invented marketing automation tools.
Yeah.
What I see is that, I'll tell you what I think marketing gets really lazy on, is that you create an ebook, but you don't customize it to an industry or a persona.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I think one of the biggest things marketing can do is take that one piece of pillar of content that you do, chop it into make it buyer persona specific for 4 or 5 buyer personas, make it industry specific, and that's even better. And then use that as your nurture streams in your marketing automation versus general nurture stream number 2. I feel like marketing can just you only sell into a certain number of verticals and a certain number of personas. So I really feel like if marketing wants to help and be a part of this solution, you have to just take it to just that next step, that next one, which is, again, just take that one and just, instead of saying, people in finance, say directors of operations. I feel like there's some stupid small stuff that would take, a couple of weeks to just take all that stuff and just make it even better.
Yeah. Switch up a couple visuals, basically kind of like programmatic ebooks, if you will. We can live there, and I think the work you'd have to put in to make those small changes, the meat of the content could stay the same, right? But the small changes would
10-15%.
Yeah.
All right, Scott. Thanks, man. Appreciate you stopping in. Scott Barker, everyone.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you. All right, we've got one more guest. We're gonna talk mega deals. This dude closed a $15 million deal. It's pretty sweet. Hold on.
Back-to-back lives.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? So you can come sit over here.
Open, close.
You can leave it open. All right, what's up, everyone? All right, we're back. I decided to go get my man here. All right, so we are going to, all right, hold on. So we're going to talk now, let's see, great ideas. Content tailored to current decision maker. So here's what we've talked about. We've talked about mutual action plans. Did you see Trey's talk at all? Yeah. So Trey, we talked about mutual action plans. And I asked him, I said, why, we all know this in enterprise deals that it really moves the needle. So there's a delay, it's kind of annoying. So this is where you look and then you can kind of see it here. That's about it. That's about all we got. So he talked about it, and it's mind blowing to me. All enterprise sellers know this and leaders, but for some reason we don't spend very much time on it. It's inconsistent. So I want to kind of retread this a little bit. You've closed a lot of big deals in your career. How have you seen the benefit of an action plan? Do you use them, or are you like, you know what, Jake? I don't even use them. I don't need them.
We use them.
Yeah,
we use them. I found that either with the more complex deal that you do or the larger deal that you do, if you're not tracking, if you're not systematizing how you track actions, you just get lost.
Right.
You can keep a thread. Most sales guys are relatively intuitive,
right,
and they just want to run with it. And I'm the same. But you just drop stuff.
Every time.
And
Do you have a set like PowerPoint or Excel sheet?
Excel.
You have used Excel.
Basic Excel, and God bless my current manager. He's given me the simplest format. And he's like, look, just do this, do it on a weekly basis. It's something that I have to relearn all the time.
Right.
But so I have a weekly. It's weekly columns, and my current plan goes out 18 months.
With your top clients.
Yeah. Well, so yes, I have one sheet that tracks everybody I got, and then I got this other sheet, which is just this one customer that I'm working on a
Massive one. Yeah, on a very big deal. So, all right. So you shared, I caught part of your talk. You shared you closed a $50 million deal, which I think, I don't know. How many people you think have closed a $50 million deal?
To tell you the truth, it's more than you think. So
really?
In the big,
yeah, I mean like government, and I'm sure there's some spaces like that, but still, I would say it's like 1%.
It's a low percentage.
Yeah, it's a low percent of sellers. So from you were calling it mega deals, right? Concept of mega deals. What obviously there's like size and complexity, something that makes things a mega deal. What do you feel? Again, out of all the things you talked about, if I'm an enterprise salesperson and I'm trying to aspire, are there one or two or three kind of like most critical skills that you think are that I have to absolutely have if I'm gonna ever even be able to like step up to bat or to be able to like play in the game?
Yeah. Number one, we all need to learn how to work with the executives on both sides of the table.
Okay, tell me more.
So I've never seen a deal of any size other than small deals get closed without some kind of executive engagement.
Yeah. Your executives, their executives.
Yes. Yeah. And the bigger the deal, the more complex the deal, the more impactful the deal, the greater the need for executive approval, engagement, buy-in. And, I read a lot and I see the stats coming out now in not the challenge of sale, the challenge of customer. They talk about that 5.4.
Yeah.
The 5.4 is the new average for how many stakeholders it takes to close enterprise deals.
I'm not surprised.
So as that number climbs, more and more we need to be able to.
Scott gave you a little shout out.
What's up, Scott Barker? He's one of my heroes and one of my mentors. I have a LinkedIn group, and he shared. We did a 3-part series in the LinkedIn group, and he just dropped bomb after bomb.
I love it.
Helpful about how to use LinkedIn to close deals.
Oh, I love it. All right, back to you.
Yeah. So I guess that's number one skill.
Number one skill.
Learn how to work with executives.
Have to do it. It's interesting. I was talking to Trey about this too. Do you think I think it's a combination of things. I think reps are nervous. They don't know how to engage their senior leaders. That's one. Two, I think it's ego, meaning like if I bring in other people, that means I am not sufficient. I am somehow not worthy of a CEO. What do you? Is there one of those that resonates more with you, or maybe there's something else? Like what do you think stops enterprise salespeople or even enterprise leaders from doing that? Again, you're saying never seen a big deal without it. What do you think stops it when you look at your peers or you look at people in other teams or other orgs?
I think there's a fear factor. It's almost the same fear factor as actually doing video on LinkedIn versus just posting.
Right.
But yeah, without them, you just can't get there. There's an analogy that I think about a lot is, do you want to be the quarterback or do you want to be the coach? Because if you want to be the quarterback, then you're looking for all the limelight, and that's not wrong.
Yeah.
That's just the way that you want to play it. But the coach actually has a lot more influence, and they're driving a lot more players, and they tell the guys up in the booth what to do and what to say, and they're the ones who put the plays together in the first place.
Right.
And from my personality profile, I prefer to be the coach. I don't need that limelight.
But maybe there was a time you were a quarterback. Like,
well, so there's situations that I still want to be a quarterback. So, for example, we talked in the session about how for most of my career, I didn't want to work with partners.
Right.
I didn't want to work with partners because I didn't want to
partners. Yeah, we deal with this. So as a consulting firm, we have tech partners, and we deal with this with some of their newer reps too, where why am I going to bring in a tech partner? Like, what are they going to do? They're going to slow my deal down. So talk about that though. Like, what was about? Like, what got you over the hump of working with partners as a rep?
A great partner.
Right.
I finally had an experience where basically we partnered on a deal and it closed, and then in the implementation phase, my team made some missteps, and the partner covered for us. They didn't throw us under the bus, And they basically said, look, we're arm in arm in this, and we're going to be until implementation. And that just 180 my view of partner.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's it. Like, I think partner wants the same thing that you want as a seller, right? Partner wants a larger deal for you. They want you to be happy, so you send them more deals. Like, again, to your point, it's a good partner. Okay, so executive alignment is the number one thing. What's next?
Number 2 is the quality of your insight.
Okay.
So the market has moved. We used to all go by the spin selling model, which is all about questions. And then we would go into these initial meetings and inundate our customers with, hey, let's have coffee. And what keeps you up at night? And all these corny questions.
Right.
And that cycle's done because customers are tired of it. And the new customer wants you to teach them something.
Sure.
So we teach most impactfully through insights. But there are different layers of insights.
But how do you get the insights if you don't ask questions?
Well, okay. So absolutely fair point. But the insights that are, so another one in the Challenger sale, I got the idea of, okay, what they're saying is you need to bring something to the customer that they don't know about their own industry or business, which takes a hell of a lot of legwork. And it's going to be a combination between your own resources helping you, which is pre-sales and product management and marketing and management, general management, as well as working with underlings and worker bees within the customer to find out the on-the-ground problems and meshing those two together into something which I call an if you look deeper insight.
Okay.
Which you start out by saying, look, Mrs. Executive, you already know these top 3 issues in the market. So I'm not going to go over the obvious ones.
Yeah.
But if you look deeper, there's actually this great white shark eating your lunch that you don't even know about.
Interesting.
And the players that figured this out are going to be high and right.
So it's insights. I've talked to a lot of enterprise leaders about this, that their teams, and especially if you just so happen to be in an industry where you have a lot of data about your research, whether I was talking like LinkedIn, for example, and obviously LinkedIn knows a lot. They know what your employees do and where they live. And so you can imagine like the amount of data they have access to. And I was having a conversation with their leadership team, and this concept of insights, that it's your job in sales not to present data. It's your job in sales to present the things that are relevant to that person like at the right time. And I think there's that data, but I think something that you said is really important, that, you're calling people, you're talking to people on the front lines or emailing them. Well, I think a lot of people are scared to do that. I think a lot of enterprise reps they're worried about stepping on toes, right? They're worried about, stepping on toes or, getting back to someone. So how do you, when you're getting, there's that kind of digital data I could find out, but if you're going and talking to the frontline people, how do you do that in a way that doesn't, potentially firebomb something? How do you do that in a way that maintains integrity, just in case? And I don't know if you've ever had it blow up or I've never had it blow up. I've never had an issue with it, but how do you do it in a way that's tactful? Maybe tactful.
So if I start on the bottom,
yeah,
we find out some pains. They're typically, call them director, let's say there's director level pains, there's VP level pains, and then there's C-suite level pains.
Sure.
Down at the director level, the scope is going to be pretty limited. The pain that they feel is only within their team or a couple of teams.
Yeah.
And once you get to the bottom of it and you say, well, we might be able to help you fix it, I'm not quite sure, but I got to do some more digging. To do that digging, I'm going to have to go up. And so I don't want to go up in a way that's not going to make you look good. So you tell me who to go up to, and you do the introducing. And so I do a lot of empowering of the people at the lowest level.
You should mark that. I don't know what minute we're at. We're like deep into this, but that was one of the smoothest ways of, well, of course I need to talk to your boss. There are these things that are happening.
I got to make you look good.
Yeah, I got to make you look good.
If you want to get this pain solved, I might be able to help.
I like that.
How do we do this together and
make
you look good?
Yeah.
And as you climb, you just continually do that.
Yeah.
But you need one thing that we talked about today was perseverance. So that's another quality I think that we need when we're going for these really large deals, because most reps, we're a little trigger happy. As soon as we see a buy, we just want to close whatever we got right then. It's a rabbit, just grab it and get it, right?
Yeah, well, that's leadership too, right? I think a lot of reps live in a culture where their leaders say one thing, we want to increase average deal size, but you're not okay if the deal goes another 2 months, which is what it's going to take. And I think you have to have strong leadership that understands the when you grab that balancing act and trust you as a rep to make the call sometimes, and not short circuit you and tell you what to do, but help you to understand why hey, you did that, but here's the next time, let's do it this way.
Yeah. Some early stage CEOs come to me and one of them said, Jamal, I'm an operational CEO. I'm not a sales CEO, and I need to learn about sales if I'm going to be able to help my sales force.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we talked about is kind of this 60-40. It could be a different ratio, but let's say it's a 60-40 rule, where if you want the deal size to get bigger, if you want to go for the more complex deals, then let the reps have 40% of their time to let them cook. Let those deals cook. 60% of the time, go get that run rate business, keep the lights on, and
That's
do
good.
that kind of stuff. But if the reps don't understand that they have that wiggle room, they're just going to keep closing as soon as they can.
I think that's right. Yeah, that's interesting. And I don't think most people spell it out in a way that makes it easy for a rep to know either, of like when they can or when they can't.
I think Kelsey is here too. If you want to talk to him.
Was he the guy we were supposed to talk to before?
Yes, he was talking with you, I think, and he forgot. He got the time mixed.
We'll see when we wrap. We'll wrap up here in like 5 or 10.
Okay.
Yeah, if he
Oh,
hangs out, why not?
Yeah, he's just chilling.
All right, cool. Do you know Evan?
Yeah.
Did you just meet? Or you worked with him?
No, we've been talking for weeks.
Oh, I did? Okay. In lieu of this. Okay. So again, we have our man Jamal here talking about enterprise deals. So we've got, did we get the third one? Or is the third one perseverance? Or was that a bonus?
That was a bonus.
That was a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, the third one is really mentors.
Mentors.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
The first mega deal that I did, I had 2 mentors. Salty old dogs from the industry for like ever, right? 20 years apiece.
Okay.
My VP of sales and my VP of service.
Okay.
And I'm fully convinced that it was that 9-month period that we together closed this mega deal. It took 9 months, less than a year.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That I just kind of watched the masters work. And it's kind of like the same thing. If you use the whale hunting analogy, from the indigenous peoples of the north, right? If you get some young pup, some 15-year-old kid who's never been on a whale hunting trip, do you think he can go out and just do it by himself without any kind of guidance? No. He's got to go with the tribe and figure it all out. He needs lots of mentoring.
Right.
I think there's less than a handful of reps in the world who can figure out how to not just run into one accidental mega deal, but like do multiple mega deals and figure that out on their own.
Right.
But there's many more reps, still a small percentage, can do it once they're mentored.
Right.
And I just look at the trajectory of my own performance before and after mentoring.
Yeah.
And it's just night and day. So if you are interested in accelerating success, in accelerating positive outcomes and whatever you're trying to do, in this case, it's mega deals, go find somebody who's done it before and have them show you how to show the ropes.
I was talking to someone about this. Maybe John Barrows, somebody. We were talking about why do people reinvent the wheel? A mentor is going to help you not reinvent the wheel. A mentor is going to say, oh yeah, guess what's going to happen? This is why we need to start this with procurement now and not 8 months from now, right? Which I think a lot of people do. So, all right, so drop your questions here about mega deals. Let's see, we've got a few here. This is, I think, a marketing one. So in a custom biz market research, should I create sell sheets that productize typical projects? So you do this kind of custom work, so you want to productize it. We're, as a consulting firm, we do this a little bit too, to include generalized price. Advantage would be kind of eliminating these custom proposals, etc. What are your thoughts? So someone comes from a custom industry, there's kind of, I look at this just 2 ways. It's more confusing and less people get it because it can kind of be anything. If I ask anybody, I said, hey, what does Deloitte do? You're like, audit stuff, like that they have 85. Right? What does Accenture do? I don't know, right? But if you say a product company or even Oracle, like what does Oracle do? Like, everything?
Yeah,
right? Like,
that was everything.
So I think the key would be, or do you come in with something more packaged, knowing that he might have like a premium offering? And again, you're working at Oracle, I think you have a little bit of this too, because Oracle's got such a toolkit, right? The toolkit is huge now. So how have you been successful? Have you taken more of a productizing approach or let it be a little more open and help to narrow it in?
I mean, so to the productizing simplifies. It simplifies the message.
Yeah. It
simplifies the promised outcome. So I'm a fan. Now I'm coming from the productized world, so that's almost all I know. So at Oracle, basically, you don't sell terribly wide. The core technology maybe has a big bag in his portfolio, but all of us have smaller portfolios. So when we sell, we sell quite narrow to whatever it is that we're doing. So I'm a fan of what he's
Productize
suggesting to productize it, because it makes it easily consumable. And if it makes it easier to sell and you get your foot in the door with a productized offering, it can always expand.
Then you got to try to do that. But the key though is you have to start to plant those seeds pre-sale, I think, because if not, then you get pegged as the company that makes widgets. Yeah, who does, as opposed to somebody who can do more. So Justin Neal, how long have you been in sales?
I've been, well, it depends on how you count it. My first sales job was selling books door to door to pay for college.
Okay, so college.
All
right.
Fast forward to when I started in technology, I would say 2002.
All right. So 17 years. 17 years in tech, but he sold books door to door. We had a question actually in a LinkedIn Live earlier. A guy was a door to door salesman, and he asked the question. What was the question that he asked? It was something like, "What's your best opening? Like, what's your best way to open it?" And so we were talking about it. And what was your best opening in door to door sales? So you're going around, you're selling books.
Yeah.
What kind of books?
They weren't encyclopedias, but they were educational.
I wish your son was
like the set of three, Southwestern. It used to be a Bible company, turned into education.
All right.
The best opener was basically introducing myself and saying, I'm here selling books that a lot of kids are going to be using in school next year, and then rattling off a customer list of all of the kids in their class. So would you sell and then you ask them, the kids? Yeah. And so the basic idea was become familiar with the neighborhood and the kids that lived there and which grades they were in at which school.
Right.
And I would have a chart, every class, every grade,
every elementary school,
in every elementary, middle, and high school.
I fucking love it.
And by the time that I would, it took some weeks to get there, but then the following weeks it was just absolute gravy, because everybody thought that it was a community sell and it was something everybody was doing. Because I had this massive list, and that sounds like
how does he know all these kids who are doing this? So
it's nothing but referral selling. We do it in enterprise.
Well, that's right, man. I mean, that's exactly John mentioned, literally almost identical. We call it clovers. You get these people that are in a similar area in these different groups that they're in. Justin said Southwestern's a great company. And that's exactly what his advice was too. Is then once I made one sale, if I was going door to door in an office building, I'd go to one of the buildings that had my customer in it first.
Yeah.
And then I'd try to get those people to buy, and then I'd get them to refer me to the next building over where they used to be or something like that.
Yeah.
And so he said the same thing. So I want to see what this question is. Presenting an unsolicited same as cash OpEx proposal, solicited CapEx proposal to high-level business decision makers, yes or no. Unsolicited same as cash OpEx with a solicited CapEx proposal. Okay, I think what this guy's trying to say, Todd from Pavilion Data. Todd, I don't know if you're just trying to put as many acronyms in here as you can, but I think what you're trying to say here is something about saving money. Todd, can you make this question some more simple? Jamal has had a long day. He just finished making. I've had a long day. We went to ACL. Don't go to ACL on a Sunday. It's not bad news when you're 39. You're just too old for it. All right, man. So let's just do one more question then. So last question. You talked about this. You talked about mentors, right? Which I think is pretty cool. Talking about how these people. If someone's in enterprise sales right now, so you've already said, hey, go get mentors. That makes sense. Are there any books that you think they should read? Are there any communities that you're a member of now that are groups? What do you think are some things that anyone who's, maybe you're in SMB sales and you want to learn about enterprise, what are some places that are your go-tos? What are some of the things that you go to?
I mean, I have a list of books that when people ask, I just give them a list.
All right. So DM Jamal. I think Scott tagged him, so you can DM him. He'll send you his list of books. There's 120 people. He expects 120 DMs. All right, so you've got a list of books. Are there any that stand out? Are there any when you go back and you think about, man, this book, dude, I learned this one, I had some big takeaways from.
Selling to the C-suite?
Selling to the C-suite?
One of the biggest things that I learned is based on the research that they did, when executives are in and out of buying processes.
What is that?
So it's kind of a V or a U. They're very engaged in the beginning when they're creating the idea.
Yes.
Right? What is the thing that we're trying to do? Are we trying to save money or trying to make money?
Yeah.
And then what is the strategy that we're going to go about to enact to make this thing happen? And then, okay, go give this to lower people to go figure out how to do it and which vendors do it.
And then they're back.
And then they're back when it's time to buy the thing or get it implemented.
That's right. I love that. So selling to the C-suite, they get involved. Yeah, this is really interesting. Kick it down to their other people, and then coming back at the decision making. Selling to the C-suite. What's one more book?
The Power of Moments.
The Power of Moments. I've not heard that book.
The Power of Moments is basically, the basic idea is that from a psychological standpoint, people remember 2 points in any experience more than the rest.
Okay.
One is kind of call it, I guess, the climax or the height of the experience, be that good or bad.
Okay.
And they remember the ending. And the basic idea is that there are moments in a person's experience, whatever they're going through, that are memorable and they retain and they really stick.
Interesting.
So you can actually engineer moments. And in engineering moments, you become memorable and influential. And it's highly relevant when you want to influence people to see something new.
Yeah.
Or to have a good customer experience.
Right.
And a great story from that book is that there was a hotel in LA, not in the best location and not the top shelf in terms of amenities,
right.
but they got killer reviews every time in quantities like no other 5-star got.
Right.
And they just killed it with customer experience. And one of the customer experiences they offered was the popsicle line, I think it was called. So they had a pool. It was downtown LA, but I think it was on top of the building. They had a pool.
Yeah. And
next to the pool, there was this telephone. And you would pick up the phone and they would say, yes, popsicle line. And they say, I'd like a popsicle, please. And say, we'll bring it right out with flavor, grape, this or that.
Right.
And they would just, on a silver platter, 50-cent popsicles.
Yeah.
As much as you wanted.
And
it was such a memorable moment.
I love it.
That it totally influenced the perception of the experience from the customer.
Yeah, it's high end, right? They're going to actually bring me a popsicle. That's cool, man. I like it. Well, dude, it was good to meet you.
You too.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed your talk.
Thanks a
really
lot.
Enjoyed it.
I look forward to keep following you. I've been following you for a long time.
Have you? All right. Well, good, man. Keep following. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, we've never done one of these before. Where we just like keep it rolling. I talked to Scott. And he's like, "Hey, do you want to come down and do some LinkedIn live sessions?" I was like, "I'm not trying to run a company or anything. Sure, I'll do it for 3 hours." No, I enjoyed this, man, and it's really fun because we've been talking about like enterprise deal. I love enterprise sales is one of my most favorite things on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. I love the complexity and the nuances and why these details, they matter so much that you play this right and you send this person a book or you do this and that. So I love talking enterprise sales. So it's been a fun few hours here to do this. So Justin, you can direct message you? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Direct message.
It's a bit of a plug. You said what groups do I go to? I didn't find any that I like, so I started one.
Okay.
And it's called the Sales Tribe.
The Sales Tribe.
On LinkedIn.
That's right. Join the Sales Tribe. Can anybody join?
Enterprise sellers.
Enterprise sellers. If you're an enterprise seller, you can join the Sales Tribe. So again, thanks, man.
Thanks, Jake.
Appreciate it. All right, we might have one more. So hold on. Stay tuned. Let me go look. Might have one more amazing enterprise salesperson. We'll see. Where are you based? Sweden. You're based in Sweden? Where are you living? What's up, dude? How you doing? Not much, man. I'm just like, what's going on, everyone? We've got one more person. Don't go away. Come on over here. Come sit over here. You should sit over here. All right, so I got to pull up my notes here. So we've been talking about enterprise deals. Okay, we've been talking about closing big enterprise deals. Hold on.
Big deals.
Big deals. You're at Seismic.
That's right.
This is you. You're Evan.
I am Evan.
I've got my notes right here. So you
Name
talk
I
about
gave you.
bringing in the biggest deal. How do you know it wasn't your dad? Your dad,
Uh,
maybe your dad gave you the name.
My dad is a lovely man, but I don't know. I don't think so.
You don't think?
Yeah.
So? But do you know this? Have you talked to your mom and dad?
I don't know for sure. You're right. Yeah.
Okay, you should talk to your mom and dad about who named you Evan.
It's gonna be my next text after this.
You should. So my dad wanted to name me Yates Coulter.
Are you excited about that or disappointed?
You know, I'm kind of disappointed. Yates Coulter is a very cowboy name. I grew up on a farm. Not a lot of people know this. So I grew up
too.
in,
I was born on a farm.
I was born in Iowa and then
Indiana.
moved to Nebraska for a year and then lived on a farm. So my dad wanted to name me after, I don't know where Yates Coulter came from.
It's a cool name.
It sounds kind of like New England-y, though, doesn't it?
It is quite New England-y. Yeah.
But it's not. It's the opposite. It's like a cowboy name.
You could either have like
Vineyard vines on nothing.
totally vineyard vines, pop collar, or cowboy hat and spurs.
Right. That's how Yates does it. So okay. So you spoke here a couple of times, right? You talked about bringing in the biggest deals, not just any deals, but the biggest deals. And just so you know kind of how this works, like the camera's here, there's like a delay here. So if you have questions about bringing in the biggest deals, not the medium deals, not the small deals, only the biggest. So drop your questions in the comments here. We will try to do our best to do it. So if you had to say from your talk, what were the top maybe 2 takeaways for people in the audience about closing the biggest deals?
I think number one for me was you have to do an uncommonly large amount of research.
Okay. Research.
And research meaning you have to both research the financials of the company, the different motivators of the company, how the company is talking to Wall Street. Hopefully it's a public company. If not, research their other public competitors, how they're talking to people about how they're going to grow. What are the key pillars? And you have to align to at least one of those things.
Right.
And then you also
From the annual report. So are you looking at a lot of annual report or quarterly?
Actually, investor days. Investor day presentations are my mother's milk. Like because it's not every company, but a lot of companies, actually I shouldn't say, like probably a third of companies will have an investor day where each executive, kind of big C-suite executive, will take a full presentation and outline, hey, I'm the CMO. Here's how here's how.
And this is all the analysts, right? Like
yeah,
this all the analysts covered.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm the CMO. This is how we're going to use marketing to grow our business this year. I'm the CRO. Here's how we're going to use sales to grow our business this year. I'm the CIO. Here's how we're going to use technology to grow our business this year. And a lot of times they will tell you how to sell to them. If you're selling a product where the CMO is your buyer, that CMO in that presentation will tell you how to sell.
How did you learn this, man? I think I'll tell you what's really interesting, man, is I was talking to some enterprise leaders. Oh, here we go. Did you
Beverages.
What?
Did you get a beer?
Yeah, I got cider.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I don't know if this is the first ever beers on LinkedIn Live, but maybe.
Good choice.
That's not too bad. It's not too sweet. I'm allergic to gluten, so I have to stick with the ciders.
Fair enough.
I had don't go to ACL on a Sunday. It was too much. I'm 39 and too old to be going out on Sunday till watching Mumford & Sons till 9:30 p.m. last night.
Sounds like fun though.
It was fun. But then I was just like, I can't do this. Keep doing this. Okay, what were we talking about? Where are we at? We're talking about enterprise deals. How did you learn this? This is what I was going to ask you, because here's what it is. I was talking about. I talked to a lot of enterprise leaders, and this is a very consistent theme I hear, that their top reps or top team, managers even have a strong business acumen. Like sometimes they play the stock market or they're involved. But if you're not into the stock market, if you're, how did you learn this? Like to look at these investor days or the annual reports, those types of things. How did you learn that skill?
Two things had to happen. One, when I came to my current company, Seismic, luckily they take a lot of low brain activity as a senior seller off of your plate.
Yeah.
And so I got the time. I knew that delving into the financial research was always really important. I just kind of never had the time to do it, and I also was a little afraid of it because I don't have a financial background. But once I got the time, I had a really, really big account that I knew was a possible big opportunity for us, and I said, I gotta, take a dump in my pants and jump in and swim.
Okay.
And so I got to delve into this investor stuff, and I asked one of my buddies who works in finance, like, all right, what is the dumbest, like the most layman friendly part of the financial research? And he's like, go to the investor days. Like they speak to Wall Street like you would speak to an 8-year-old, or at least some of them do.
Right.
And so the first one was really hard. The second one was really hard. The third one I started to get it. I was like, okay, they're using the same language. They're talking about similar things.
With the same company or
different companies?
Different companies,
different
so
investor
seeing
days.
a few different plays from different companies in their investor days. Got it.
And you just gotta bang it out and delve in there, and you gotta make love to the investor relations section because that's where the gold is.
Make love to the investor relations section. Nobody has ever said that before, ever, because it's boring shit, right? I think for a lot of people, but it's also very interesting stuff.
It is sometimes, but then sometimes you actually get executives that are actually magnetic, and they talk about how to grow their business, and it's like, oh my God, like I can totally align what we're doing to that.
And is that how you do when you do like all your kind of big deal prospecting? Is that how you generate a lot of your meetings too? Or is that you generate net new engagement?
To some degree, yes, because you're using the language that they're using to grow, and you're Jedi mind trick, like using it against them. So you're putting that into your outreach, your phone calls, your emails, your gifts, whatever you're doing to get their attention. And it's not necessarily the C-suite person that you're trying to get the attention, but you're saying, hey, your boss's boss is saying this to the market. We align right to it. you and I should talk.
Yeah, I'm gonna make you look good.
Yeah, and no, any VP wants to align to exactly what their boss is telling Wall Street.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Okay, so talked about that this Investor Day. What else? What else are some of like your top takeaways from like, your top?
So there's other, but there's another key thing that I as part of the research, which is user interviews. I don't, for some products and some services, it's impossible. But if you sell something where you can actually talk to the end user at that company beforehand and interview multiple of them, you'll be able to
or the potential end user.
The potential end user.
Yeah. So you'll be new business, potential, current customer. You're talking to the users.
Exactly, and you'll be able to pull out these I call them golden nuggets of sheer pain and abject horror. Of just how
I don't even know what that word means, but it sounds great. What is abject horror?
Abject horror is like, have you ever done the pearl grabs and it was and you just horror.
But abject horror is like
horror is like
much more fancy. Like it sounds like a British way to say it.
It's a 50-cent word. I should probably use a 5-cent word on that.
No, that's good. I like it. I'm stealing that. Like, oh yes, I mean. The person was, but can you be abject toward? Like they were abject toward, like they were horrified?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think or is it you're abjectly horrified.
I don't know. It doesn't have a sound.
That's the same ring.
Okay, all right.
But anyways, they will tell you just how, whatever problem you're trying to solve, they'll tell you in the company's words just how bad it is for them.
Right.
And if you do your financial research and you pull out these strategies on how they're going to grow, and you do your interviews with how bad it is for this particular place that you're trying to solve for, you put those two things together.
How do you get them to talk to you? How do you
money? No, I'm kidding.
You just bribe. But no, I think because I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but I think Jamal. I think a lot of reps and leaders know. I know I should go do some frontline research. I know I should go down to the frontline people. But I think they get nervous that they're gonna spark something. Someone's gonna come and say, "Hey, why'd you talk to that person?" Like, how do you get those people at prospect accounts to engage with you, the frontline people?
Sometimes you have to get kind of a director level, VP level, managerial level meeting as an anchor meeting, and then you say, "Hey, I'm trying to prepare for this meeting. I want to make this meeting personal for the person I'm talking to. Would you be willing to help?" Sometimes it's just as simple as me, reaching out to my, hey, we went to the same college together. I'm trying to get in this account. Like, can you help me?
Yeah. I gotta tell you. So SalesLoft did a report. SalesLoft did a report of nuggets that actually help you to get in, and you actually going to the same college as the other person was one of the top performing ones.
That's right. Alumni pride. Purdue.
All right.
Yeah. So fellow Boilermakers at my accounts have been very kind and allowed me to interview.
It's pretty wild, right? It's not like you ever knew these people. Purdue's a small school,
and they don't owe me anything.
You're right.
But if you can phrase it in the way of listen, if I tell I will help make your life better.
Yeah.
If you can help give me some of the language that you all use internally to describe these problems.
So you ask for that internal language. You ask for the way that they actually word it.
Yeah, because otherwise I'm just speaking you're jerk tech rep who speaks in Silicon Valley language.
Right. So what's next? So what are the other big takeaways from your talk? If I'm a top rep, I want to know how to close the biggest deals, not big deals, the biggest. What else?
Executive involvement, your own executives, investor involvement, your own investors. The best piece of sales advice I think I've ever gotten was you see who you sound like, and if you don't speak executive, you have to get your executives involved or your investors involved to speak executive to the other executives.
Okay.
Because no big deal gets done without executives selling to other executives.
That's it. That's Jamal said the exact same thing. He said that he's never had a big monster deal close without executives talking.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. It's a level of comfort. They a peer talking to a peer in a way that I can't.
Right.
I can't have that relationship with them.
Sometime. It'll be sometime, man.
Yeah, sometime.
You'll be able to get there. So that peer-to-peer alignment, man, this whole investor, I've never heard, I mean, I knew what an investor day is. I never thought about it. I've listened to investor calls. I've listened to like their earnings calls. I've done what's the quarterly, 10K?
10K. Yep.
And I've read annual reports, but I never went in on this investor day.
And not every company does them. Most do.
Is this a physical?
This is a day on campus where they invite a bunch of investors into a room, and they're like, "Let me just tell you A to Z."
Do you physically go?
No, I don't physically go.
Okay.
But you can. They usually post
simulcast it or whatever it is. Okay.
And the other tip for understanding what the executives are worried about is whatever the questions in the quarterly earnings calls.
Yeah.
Like whatever the investor questions are. Each one of those questions touch upon a subject that Wall Street is concerned about. And honestly, those questions, you'll listen to it and they will be like the nicest asked questions. They'll be like, they'll be so flattering of the business, so flattering of the CEO or whoever they're asking the question of. But in fact, they are asking it because they are worried about this thing.
Right.
And you can align your proposition to it.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Yeah. That's a lot of this. People give you all this information.
They tell you how to sell them.
They tell everything. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to answer some questions that we've done before. Do you work closely with marketing at all?
On some of my accounts, we do have dedicated ABM resources. So.
Okay. How do you do that? One of the questions Laura had asked before was like, what content have you seen from marketing that's helped to move the needle for you? Like, are there pieces of content, or maybe it's multiple plays? Like, what's worked for you to actually like move the needle?
Honestly, it's the tapping into marketing's creativity on how to be novel in a way to get somebody's attention. So I actually rely on some of our great marketing staff to think creatively on what type of presence or what type of whether it's comedy, whether it's personal, whether it's like just zany off the wall.
Is there any of that you've seen work better though? Like, are there? Someone asked. There was a guy who asked earlier. I didn't answer it. He answered it. I was talking to John Barrows, and he said, "Any thoughts on sending pictures of dogs?" And I'm like, well, it depends if they're dog lovers or not. But is there any of these pieces of content types that you've seen be more effective or less effective?
I've seen sheer comedy work very well.
Sheer comedy. Give me an example of just sheer comedy.
When a prospect when we've reached out to them multiple times with no response, my BDRs, they send an email that is like maybe I have this wrong, but I'm feeling stuck, and it's like this picture of this dog who's gotten himself stuck in a hedge. And it's cute and lovely and horribly funny. And it's just kind of doing little things like that to say, hey.
You can make it customized though. Does it make it all customized to that person?
Oh yeah. So that's the first wave of outreach that my BDRs do and I do is around like highly personal. Let me just tell you your life story in an email format or in a phone conversation. Second wave is this kind of business centric outreach where you're combining the interviews that you've done with the investor day stuff and you're combining that.
Right.
The third wave is just like, let me just try to get you to respond to me just by being funny.
Right. Yeah, because I feel like right now the bar is so low for enterprise BDRs because so many are doing such horrible work that it's just like this generic shit where it's like, Jake, are you stuck under a rock? Did a hippo get you? And but the 3 emails before it had nothing personalized either. So.
Right. So you can't do the non-personalized before that. You have to understand that they are just whatever you do, they're not going to respond to the first 3 or 4, and you have to continue to personalize it. You got to put the time in.
Yeah, you don't just quit. You just don't stop personalizing. All right, man. What size team do you manage now?
I'm an individual contributor on our global.
You're on the global accounts team, individual contributor. How big is the global accounts team?
I think there's 6 of us.
6 of us. So you're at the pinnacle of seismic.
Correct.
You're at the very tip top.
The
tip top of sales. So when you look at your peers, or maybe even your peers in your previous, are there traits that you see that are uniform around like elite sellers? Are there things that you notice in your peers, whether it's in this global accounts role or in some of these other roles that you feel are common? You're like, this is just something that comes up a lot.
Some people would call it systems thinking, or it's the ability to think moves ahead.
Yeah.
And the ability to kind of work out scenarios of moves and counter moves on a chessboard. I feel like, you know, it's a common theme I think I see amongst the great, you know, sellers at Seismic and other great sellers that I've seen, is their ability to kind of explain to you how they're thinking through those moves and counter
The
moves.
next steps, the next steps.
That's right, and it's not just kind of like pinball, like hidden things.
How do they learn that? How do you learn that? How do you learn that skill to think 2 steps ahead or 3 steps? Like, because I feel like, I agree. I think I see that quite a bit. You know, but I really try to struggle. Like, okay, so like, how do I teach someone this? How do I teach someone to? Is it that you just kind of have to? How I've done it in the past, now that I think about it, is I've done these account strategy one-on-ones where I have reps that bring me 3 accounts, and they bring to me like the next 4 steps, who we need to involve, and then by about month 6 or 7, they run the meeting,
Right.
and I'm like, yep, let's do it this way. So I guess I've done a little bit of that before, and then part of it's just getting. I guess you get your teeth kicked in, right? Like you're like,
experience.
oh
is the best teacher.
god, like I forgot that. I can't believe I forgot to loop in procurement, and now we've got 3 months. And you're like,
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm 2/3 of the way through the deal, and no executive has touched this deal yet.
right. Or like, yeah, you're buying Seismic, and they're like going through a CRM like overhaul.
Right.
You know, it's like it's probably gonna not be tomorrow that they're gonna implement it.
Exactly. Well, and so it's you know, experience is obviously one of the best teachers. But if you're young in your career, it's really important that you spend as much time as you can around senior sellers, or you listen to, you know, people like you, people like, you know, Scott Ingram. Like you delve into the craft of sales, and it will, over time, you'll pick up these kind of experiential nuggets. Those will be transferred to you.
And just don't reinvent the wheel. Think I'm just saying this stuff for my good health? You think I'm giving you bad? You think I'm just doing this for 2 hours to just give bad advice? I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just help everyone shit the bed on enterprise deals, as opposed to like have these guys who are out there closing. What's the biggest deal you've closed ever?
It was IBM, and they bought for all of their sellers and all of their channel partners globally. It was about 100,000 licenses.
Okay, so let's do the math. And what's a Seismic license cost? Let me just try to back this up.
I'm not supposed to tell the figure.
They got a sweet deal out of it. It's IBM. Let's call it what it is. All right, yeah, okay, all right. That's like a nice little like 7. How many years?
3 years.
Had to be a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
All right, so that's pretty
And
good.
it's
It might
gonna
have been in the 8-figure range.
It's going to be transformational for them. I mean, truly
course.
transformational for them.
Well, you better say that.
Yeah, no,
Of course it's going to be.
I fundamentally believe it.
You should. All right, my man. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having a beer. This is a good way to end it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you tuned in the entire time, drop me a comment, send me a DM, put your name in here, Jake, I tuned in. And I've got something special for everyone who tuned into all 2 hours, right? It's a one-on-one with Evan. Evan's going to sit down and go through your book of business with you and help you to prioritize. No, send me something. I've got some swag for you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining on a Monday. Have an amazing rest of your week, and we will catch up with you on the next broadcast.